This is the Seahawkers podcast, episode 421. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and I am joined by my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
We join you every week, man. We get together, no matter the good or the bad, and that was capital U, capital G, capital E. That was ugly, capital ugly all the way around, man. Tough.
Yeah, it's one of those games where you're happy that it only counts as one loss in the record book because it felt like four.
I can imagine. Now, this loss was my fault. Let me take the responsibility right out of the gate. You know, this is something we do on this show, right? Like, take responsibility for the losses. And, you know, I had to work. I'm down to just doing about a third of the wheel grinds that I used to do. Thanks to you guys. I am transitioning out of the mill. It's happening, but I just so happened to have to do a job on the weekend. Missed watching it live. So it's my fault that it went the way it did. But with that said, I think I got the advantage of delaying watching it until today, Wednesday, so that when you watch it, it didn't hurt quite as bad because you knew what was coming to a degree and you could be a little more analytical about it. And so maybe we'll have a different perspective here that we wouldn't ordinarily have. But I think, Brandon, when you go back and you look at that game, that's an offensive debacle. Like this whole game was on the offense, period. Like, end of story.
I disagree that it was entirely on the offense. And
okay, 3%.
Yes, heavily on the offense. And I guess I do appreciate the fact that you had a little bit of time to get your hands covered in your midsection before the boot got there. Whereas the rest of us, we got the boot straight to between the legs right as it was happening live.
I guess it was better. I don't know. I was dreading watching it. There's no doubt about it. But
it still hurts either way. It's just like I said, you had a little bit of time to where you could protect yourself ever so slightly.
Yeah, everybody else was Harry Houdini and got punched in the stomach unexpectedly and died. And I was Houdini every other time before that and had my stomach clenched going into it. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, we are all still alive, hopefully. At least I made it. I don't know about everybody else. I can't speak for the entire fan base, but it was rough. Your takeaway, though, was that it was primarily on the offense because there was one statistic that really jumped out at me about the defense, and that was that they missed upwards of 20 tackles in this game. And so, and really watching it, it didn't feel like it was that many, but then going back and you're like, oh yeah, there was that time where Witherspoon, he had an opportunity to make a tackle. He spins out of it. Ultimately, Boye Maffe's 20 yards down the field, making a tackle. Maffe's, chasing Lamar Jackson about 30 yards all over the field. Fortunately, he did have a sack on the day to keep his streak alive, which is kind of cool. 6 straight games with a sack, which is something that no Seahawks player has done other than over the course of 2 seasons. Michael Sinclair way back when, but Maffei the first to do it in one single season.
Yeah, a lot of missed tackles. A lot of those were in the second half. And honestly, I think at some point too, the Seahawks got out physicaled throughout the game up front on both sides of the ball. And the Ravens had 100 rushing yards as a team in the second quarter.
Right.
In the second quarter.
A lot of those were Lamar.
Exactly. And that's a quarterback that you're not going to see except for maybe one more time in the Super Bowl, possibly. And that's it. He's a very unique player. Obviously, he's 18-1 against the NFC for a reason. It's difficult to know how to play a quarterback like that. Also, too, I think defensively speaking, let's get some defensive stuff out of the way here.
Sure.
Just playing the read option stuff and the run pass options and all that. They were not great on that. And it really showed. And again, it's because you don't see that style of offense very much. And then also, too, I think you're facing this Baltimore team while they're peaking, right? It's almost like facing the 49ers in week 3 this year. Like the 49ers are not the same team now as they were in week 3 after suffering 3 straight losses. And I feel like Baltimore right now is hitting their stride. Now, can they keep that up and take it all the way to the Super Bowl? time will tell. They're a damn good football team. Maybe they will. Hats off to them. But we're hitting them at their peak right now. And damn, on the road, you just get mollywomped.
I think that's a good point, too, because even listening to John Harbaugh after the game saying that's a team that we really respect, talking about the Seahawks. And if you look at the Detroit Lions game and you look at the Seahawks game and the way that they played both those games, you could tell that they came to really play in those games. Whereas, like we talked about with the Arizona game, leading into this one, it's like, well, do the Ravens even care about this Cardinals team? Because it looks like they're just going through the motions and playing JV squad, and they really don't care. And so that was the difference. I didn't know which team was going to come to play, and unfortunately, it was the same one that came to play the Detroit Lions 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely. I mean, you could tell me right now that in the league, they are one of the top 3 teams. You could say they're number 1. I'd say sure. You could say they're number 3. I'd say fine. They're one of the best teams in football right now. And you went to their house and you got rolled. And the reason I don't put it on the defense so much is that they were hanging around and kind of keeping it within a couple scores there all the way through the end of the first half. Even giving up that field goal late was maddening after the strip sack. But, it's 17-3 coming out. And then they give up 3 consecutive scores. Offense continues to do nothing. And then once it's 27-3 or 20, what was it?
No, it was 23-3. And then they went to 30-3. Yeah.
And then it was just over. It was just over. And once they got to 23-3, it was over for the offense too. More over than it was even in the first half, because that really good pass rush was able to just pin its ears back against a Seattle offensive line that was only missing one starter. Only one starter. We can't sit here and say it was all a banged up offensive line either. Now, is this some of these guys trying to get their chemistry together? Maybe. But we can go through and look at the certain drives throughout this game, or all the drives. And I can say one thing with complete confidence and certainty, Brandon.
Yeah.
And that is, this offense owns Geno Smith a motherfucking apology. Like, they did him so dirty that entire game, the entire team, the entire offense. I can't imagine. Now, I can understand on game day being like, Geno's not him, get rid of him, bench him, all that stuff. That's fine. Hard to see because you don't see the all 22, all that stuff. But having gone back and rewatch it and having a couple days of simmer on it, if you think that this game was on Geno Smith, you're a fantasy football player and that's all you know. That's my guess. It's just going back and looking at this, dude. There's a number of ways that a drive can end, right?
Yeah.
It can end on a penalty. It can end on drops. It can end on batted balls. It can end on turnovers. And it can end on just terrible play calling, right?
Sure.
Those are some of the things that can end a drive. And all of the drives ended that way, except for one. And that was the only drive they scored on, but left 4 points on the board. So
you can put that on Geno. Geno should have hit DK Metcalf in the end zone.
One throw by Geno on Sunday was one that I look at and go, that's outrageous. You can't do that. That's a bad quarterback play. 7 points doesn't get you to 37. You still get mollywomped. So this is not on Geno Smith. If you think it is, I don't care if you put Drew Lock in there or any of the quarterbacks we should have drafted. They all would have gotten smeared in that game. I don't care if you put a human hybrid of Tom Brady and Joe Montana back there behind the offensive line and Lamar Jackson combined into one human. They still would have got steamrolled like that. The offense as a whole played like crap.
They did. And whether then you attribute that to some people might attribute it to Geno. Some people could attribute it to the offensive coordinator. There's the offensive line. There's receivers not getting open. There's all sorts of things that you can attribute it to. And it's probably a combination of all those things at different percentages. But I think a lot of the blame just tends to fall on the quarterback because that's where it's easiest. I feel like we're starting to hear more blame for the offensive coordinator and Shane Waldron and not being able to prepare the team well for that game, especially coming off of a week before where the plan was so clear with the Cleveland Browns was that you weren't going to let Myles Garrett beat you, so you're going to drop back quick. And maybe you had the opportunity of a mismatch between DK and the cornerback, and that's why DK was targeted so much in that game. And maybe you didn't necessarily feel like you had that against this, or maybe you didn't feel like you had Myles Garrett on the other side of the ball, so you didn't have to kind of worry about one player in particular. But the Ravens defensive line, going into this game, you knew that it had to be a problem because they gave teams fits. And gosh, every time I think about this game now, it's I don't know if it was on every play, but it felt like every play they would just put 6 dudes on the offensive line, maybe 7, and they were all right up on the line. And at the snap, a combination of 2 or 3 would drop back and the rest would rush, or sometimes they would bring an extra guy. And the reason why I wonder, or I feel like it's correct to attribute a lot of it to the offensive coordinator, is that if you know that the defense does this regularly and you only put 5 dudes on the offensive line when they constantly are having 5, 6, 7 stacked up against, and you don't know which way the pressure is coming from, how do you not put out more tight ends or use more tight formations with your receivers so that way, if someone needs to chip, if you're concerned about a blitzer coming, you can call a different kind of protection? That Geno didn't have that opportunity, and I feel like that has a lot to do with the types of plays and formations that are called.
Big time. The number one thing for me was the lack of motion and the lack of ability to run the football with any consistency. Those two things were schematically 2 of the worst things that could have happened to them that day. And if you don't have a lot of motion, like let's take the Dolphins, for example. Mm-hmm. Watch the way that they're using motion, right? It's not that they just motion a dude over, he resets, ball snapped. No, they're running dudes in motion, and when the ball snapped, they're still in motion, almost a la CFL. Right. And
although the CFL difference is that you can run toward the line of scrimmage, and they're just running along the line of scrimmage, right?
Yeah. So you're stretching the defense now horizontally, and you're lightening the box at that point as well by doing that. So whether it was getting in a more condensed stuff and really getting, ugly down in there, okay, or motioning around and going 5 wide and just, trying to get them out of the box, you got to do something other than what you did, which, again, was a lot of 11 personnel and that sort of thing. But it was a tough game schematically. And there was, let's talk about the Geno Smith interception, or we can save that, and I can just go through the drives here real quick.
Yeah, let's go through the drives, because it's not like there were a lot. What did they have, like 10 drives on the day?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. They had 11.
There you go.
They had 11 drives. Okay. First drive, 3rd down drop by JSN, kills the drive. Is that Geno Smith's fault?
No, he hit him right in the hands.
Perfect ball. Second drive, 3rd down, ball's batted at the line of scrimmage. Is that Geno Smith's fault? Nope. Not like he was throwing them super low. Like, that's just great awareness by defensive lineman. Battered ball, kills the drive. Not Geno Smith's fault. 3rd drive, they have a false start, which then leads to a sack, which was just immediate pressure, and there wasn't a soul open for him to go to. So that ends that drive. Is that Geno Smith's fault? Nope.
Wasn't that also not only was he sacked, but there was a holding penalty that was declined?
Yes, absolutely. Next drive is the pick to up the sideline to Lockett. Right.
Yeah.
3rd down play call. We've seen this too many times out of the Seahawks. 3rd medium. And what are they doing? They're running 4 dudes downfield, nothing short, nothing underneath, no quick, nothing, no escape valve for Geno.
Right.
And he throws the ball. And when he's got his arm cocked back and he's starting to release the ball, Lockett's even with the defender. And when you're even, you're leaving. Like, he's expecting Lockett to take it up the field, because that's what you do. Instead, Lockett starts to bend it inside. Bink, pick. Is that Geno Smith's fault? I'll let you guys decide on that one. That's a Waldron problem to me, because Geno's at the line of scrimmage. They have the run pass combo out of that play, right? He can choose either. That's my guess anyways. I don't think he just audibles to this.
Is that the 4 wides where they have the dudes at the boundaries? Can I tell you that is my least? I feel like I've said it before. My least favorite formation that the Seahawks run.
Yes, I agree. My least favorite play that they run are bombs on 3rd and medium. Like, I'm so sick of that
on that play.
Yeah, and no outlets for blitzes, anything like that. There's pressure on him immediately. I just don't know what he's supposed to do there.
And on 3rd and 4 is the perfect time where you put in a couple tight ends. Then you can run the ball. You can overload one side if you want. You can balance it out. That way you have a decision on which way you want to go to. You can run 4 guys out into a pattern to catch the ball. I don't understand the 4 wides, 3rd and short, because okay, on 1st down, fine, because then you could throw a bubble, or you can. It makes so much more sense to me on earlier downs, if anything. But I don't like it because we saw what happened on one of the other drives is that a dude just decides to blitz at the last minute. And it doesn't get picked up, and Geno gets smashed. But we aren't probably to that drive yet.
So next drive, Geno gets sacked with immediate pressure, like nowhere to go. Just dude in his face, instantly gets sacked. Good play by Baltimore. Fine. At that point, Baltimore has their 100 yards rushing in the second quarter, and now up 2 scores, which now makes the Baltimore defense even more dangerous. Next drive. Geno gets his 1 clean pocket all day. He had 1 clean pocket all day. And you know what he did with it? He threw a 50-yard bomb to DK. So Geno stinks, right? So they get down there, and then he makes, like I said, the one throw that I think is inexcusable, and that's the miss to DK in the back of the end zone. They settle for the field goal. Next drive. Let's see. Baltimore fumbles, and then Geno gets immediately sacked. And then the next play, he gets strip sacked because Charles Cross doesn't push his guy around the back of the pocket. He lets him bend the edge. Right. And Geno has nowhere to step up to. Center's in his lap. And as he's throwing the ball in rhythm, if he takes a half a step forward, he can't follow through. There's nowhere to go. I watched it 3 times. There's nothing he can do there. And he's throwing the ball in rhythm.
I thought he had a little bit of room to step up to the left, but
also Cross has to push his guy past him in the pocket like that. And he
got beat so fast on that play too. That
again, not Geno's freaking fault. Next drive is the false start. Next drive, they have a hold, leads to a sack. Penalties. Next drive, they turn it over on downs. You're already down 30-3 now. So what the catfish? You just start throwing the ball around. Who cares? And then after that, he throws the ball away 2 times on the last drive because there was literally nothing open. What part of that is Geno Smith is the problem? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
To the people that have a problem with Geno. This was offensive line. This was scheme. This was the receivers. This was penalties. Undisciplined team. Just a crap show on offense. It was an entire crap show. The offense owes Geno an apology.
Well, we might be talking a little bit more Geno here too, because we do have a voicemail this week, Adam. I think the topic is Geno Smith.
Hey, all right.
There you go. Here's your message. I love the show. So this is just catfish giggles, but you guys are simping on Geno, man. He's doing worse than Justin Fields, and as long as he's not in the red zone or 3rd down or taking snaps, he probably won't turn the ball over. So my question is, I'll eat crow all day. You want to defend him and all that, $25 million. Cool. And I don't even have a solution other than the only other solution is Drew Lock. And that might be terrible. But the question is, where do you draw the line? Because he can't continue to play like this. Yes, it's the number 1 defense, but he wasn't really great against the Cardinals either. So if he plays poorly against the Ravens, when do we start questioning? When do you start questioning? Because other people are questioning it. Even people in the media are questioning.
Hey, Dookie Bear checking in. And it's a fair question because, for one, he called that in even before the Ravens game. And I don't think you can point to that and say that Geno Smith had a great game, because he didn't. You might point to some of the reasons why he didn't have a great game. But at what point then do you recognize that there's a problem here and it's time to move on.
When the offense goes out there and performs and the two best plays on the day are not Geno Smith and he makes a couple unforced errors for like no reason. That's kind of where it's at. Like, it's one thing, you got to watch quarterback play, right? So watch Jordan Love play.
Mm-hmm.
They are losing because of Jordan Love. He can't push the ball down the field with any consistency. He's erratic. He misses easy throws on the regular. Like, this isn't what Geno's doing. He is surviving an offensive line that played god awful in this last game, and had this offensive line had been surviving itself up until this point, trying to play through injuries. I'll judge Geno Smith and say, get him out of it there. Let's say we run the ball pretty well for 3 games in a row. The receivers are open. You go back and you watch the tape and you see Geno sitting there patting the ball, has clean pockets and gets sacked or is throwing picks. That's bad quarterback play. Okay. Then it's time for him to go. But that's just not what's happening.
Yeah.
So I don't know what people expect out of your guy. Like, I just don't. I don't get it.
Here's what I think is, at least in my mind, because I'm trying to, because I see it all. I see people complaining about how Geno Smith isn't the guy. So I'm trying to understand it the best way I can, because I agree with you in the sense that when I see Geno throw the football, I don't see a bad quarterback, but I don't see an elite quarterback. And so trying to, where I would maybe put him in with the other quarterbacks, a guy like Kirk Cousins. The reason why Kirk Cousins ultimately left the Commanders back in the day is because they waited and waited to try and decide if he was elite and the guy that you would want to pay long term. And ultimately it got to the point to where they couldn't pay him, and he goes to Minnesota. And he hasn't done anything there to where you would say, oh yeah, that guy is a Super Bowl quarterback. And unfortunately this year he gets injured. Justin Herbert, another one of those guys that a lot of people thinking, okay, this guy could be elite. He gets paid like he's elite. But we see week after week to where he kind of struggles with the offense. And there are those questions of, okay, well, maybe he's not going to be the guy. So somewhere in that type of range, I think, is where Geno Smith falls. He's not elite, but he's not bad. And so where do you go as a team? I feel like it's kind of, you're in this area to where he's good enough until you can find somebody better.
Has Patrick Mahomes looked elite this year? Has Josh Allen looked elite this year?
Maybe not this year, but those are guys that you've
exactly
seen enough
but
from.
This is my point. This is my point. When the offense struggles around their quarterback, an elite quarterback looks like a good quarterback, right? And if you're just a good quarterback, when the offense struggles around you, you look like a dog turd. If you're a dog turd as a quarterback, you look like Zach Wilson.
Right.
That or Desmond Ridder, right? Like, just remind yourself of what bad quarterback play actually looks like. And it helps to frame where Geno is. Now, is Geno being paid like an elite quarterback? Because $25 million a year is half of an elite quarterback, and allows you to go out and get somebody like Leonard Williams, which I think will pay dividends down the road. We don't even get a chance to really talk about him this game because there wasn't much impact there, because the Ravens are damn good. And we went up against a damn good team. When you watch it, I just went through every single drive. Like, he killed one drive.
Yeah.
And he didn't even kill, like, he still ended up with 3 points. And the 2 best plays all day were Geno Smith.
Right.
And we want to play. I think what the problem is, Brandon, is we live in a vapid football society. How many times have we heard the phrase, well, it's a quarterback driven league?
Sure.
Like, and everything is a game that's coming up between 2 teams is billed as Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. The catfish it is. It's the Chiefs versus the Bills. Right? Like, and then fantasy has skewed all this. The betting stuff has skewed all this. And so as a football watching nation, we have gotten lazy in the way that we judge teams. Well, if the team's good, then the quarterback's good. If the team's bad, then the quarterback's bad. It's all, and I understand that the quarterback's going to take all the credit and get all the blame and all that crap. And I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But our attention spans are so short that all we do is we watch the quarterback throw the ball and be like, oh, he didn't complete the pass. I guess it's on him. And it's not just me saying this. Like, other dudes who played the position break this stuff down week to week and come to the same conclusions. I didn't watch one soul before I went back and watched the game. I didn't even listen to your guys' post-game recap.
Right.
I wanted to see it before I got bombarded with everybody else's opinions.
And I don't think that even in our post game that we were overly harsh on Geno. No, I think that we talked about a lot of the same things that we have already, that running game was a problem. Coordinator was a problem. I mean, and pointing out the fact that, yes, Geno needs to make that touchdown throw, because really where this game all unraveled was the missed throw in the back of the end zone, because you get the touchdown there. You're only down one touchdown. Then say things play out the same way. Lamar throws it to Odell. Odell fumbles. The Seahawks get the ball back. And instead of a 3 straight play drive where you go backward and out of field goal range, that there is your opportunity then that maybe you can tie the game up or get within 4 points going into halftime. And instead you have the strip sack. The Ravens able to kick a field goal, and instead of 14-10 or 14-14, now you're 17-3 going into halftime. And this defensive line that's been overwhelming your offensive line the entire first half anyway, now that they can just continue to do what they do and try and confuse you even more, they know that you're already essentially taken out of the run game, because I felt like they tried running the ball on the early drives that ultimately led to punts, and they didn't get enough of what they wanted, and so they went away from it.
Look, if maybe in the run game, if you did something more than just inside zone over the left guard, play after play after play, that might be really fun. How about, where's the fly sweep motions? Where's the double tight ends in the backfield and all the motion and confusing of defenses they do out of that schematically? Yeah. Where was all of that in this game? This was a preseason game plan.
That was the infuriating thing about it, listening to Pete Carroll on Monday, because they asked him, why didn't we see more tight ends in this game? Why didn't we see some of the other things that we tend to see? And his answer was that they had that in the plan, but they needed to make first downs. And I'm thinking, Pete, you need to make first downs, so why don't you go to the things that we've seen proven you're able to make first downs on? Why do you have to go 3 receiver sets and running it, like you said, inside zone off of the left guard on the first set of downs? Why can't you do some of the creative stuff straight out of the gate and then go to the boring stuff as a way to mix it in? I don't know why you have to get a first down to get to the creative stuff.
That's a great point. And it's unbelievably frustrating. But also, I mean, if you're going to, I think you're right. But if you're going to look at it, let's just look at the first 2 drives. The first drive ends because JSN, the third down machine that never drops passes that we drafted with a first round pick, he drops a pass, an easy one. No more first downs. Can't get into a rhythm. Okay. Right. Next drive. The ball gets battered on third down. Even Romo goes, oh, I can't believe he got that one. That was a first down. He was wide open. Geno had it all lined up, ready to go through a nice ball.
Yeah.
Like, and Forsythe has to get, like, so he had a number of batted balls. Those offensive linemen, they have to get their hands into the chest of the defense, get their hands occupied. You have to occupy their hands. Like, you can't just let them do that
or don't
on the regular.
Let them get as much of a push, because they were getting pushed way back off the ball.
No chance all game that way. I find it interesting too, like Lamar gets strip sacked. Do we need to bench Lamar? Like how many times did you see Lamar stand back in the pocket, pat the ball, and then finally find a guy or take off running?
Yeah.
Geno had that once He had one pocket thingy the whole day. And he throws a 50-yard completion. What does that tell you? Like, as a football fan, it should tell you something pretty dramatic, that the offense, especially on this day, isn't at all good enough, and really hasn't been all year. And to me, at the end of the day, it starts with the running game and the offensive line. They haven't been able to run the ball with any consistency with two damn good backs all year.
Yeah.
All year. In one game that they were running the dang ball good against the Browns, they just didn't do it.
It seemed to me like if you're going to take a game to try and get right in terms of the run game, or just pound it for the reason of doing it over and over again, it's against the Ravens, just because that's how I feel like passing against this team, you're going to doom yourself. And so, yes, maybe you lose going out and running the ball on 3 straight downs, but that's what you try, because that's the way you win. And just like they had a plan against the Browns. They were going to do 3 5-step drops, throw the football, and that's how you're going to win. So why not go that and try that route against the Ravens, hammer the rock? You got healthy backs, well, semi-healthy backs. Do that until it's not going to work. And I don't know. I felt like that was the way to go, but obviously Pete didn't.
Either that, or they, again, just couldn't get to it because they shot themselves in the foot early and often, with penalties and misplays like drops, and offensive linemen being overwhelmed far more quickly than they should be. Geno has to trust that those dudes in front of him, or has to be able to trust that the dudes in front of him are going to win their one-on-one matchups. And he has to trust that his receivers are going to win their one-on-one matchups. So when Tyler doesn't take it deep on the pick, he kind of screws him over a little bit. When Charles Cross doesn't, I'm not saying it was terrible. It was definitely a miscommunication. And then, Waldron screws him over on that as well by, okay, you give him the 2 plays, the option, run or pass, right? To go. Why is the pass? Why is there no outlets in case they're coming hot? Because Brandon, even you from Montana was able to recognize they're bringing the heat on almost every passing down, every single one.
Or at least threatening to. So, yeah, you have to have that option. And I think to go back to, and whether or not you do want to have that quick outlet or actually run the ball, the number of times they were in 3rd and 4 in the first 4 drives.
Yep.
Every time it was a pass, too. 3rd and 4 on the first drive. We covered that one. 3rd and 4 where it was the batted pass thrown to Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
Third drive.
It was 3rd and million, the next one after the sack.
It was, but they also had a 3rd and 3 on that drive where they were throwing. So they
had a false start that drive too.
Every 3rd and short, up until, I don't think that they had a 3rd and short where they actually ran the ball unless it was 3rd and 1.
Yeah. And that's where the problem in this offense lies, man. If you can't run the football in those situations on the regular, then this offense dies. Does Sean McVay's offense work the best when Todd Gurley is having himself an MVP type year? Or does it work the best when Matthew Stafford is back there just throwing the football every down because they have no running back because they trade Cam Akers, early on in the season?
Mm-hmm.
Even the great Sean McVay's offense struggles when you don't run the football, and this is his offense, right? It's perplexing, and it's got to make Pete Carroll crazy. I don't know how it doesn't. And is it a personnel thing up front? Because it seems like with Bradford, Brown, and Lewis, those are 3 large humans who are very strong and are good at their jobs, especially in the run area. Bradford is pancaking dudes right and left. Is it just that we miss Abe Lucas that much? I don't know.
Yeah, and you didn't have Bradford in this game. It was Phil Haynes. Like you said, you had all of your starters except for one, and that was the guy on the right side, which was either Stone Forsythe or Jason Peters. And I'm kind of hoping that they pick one after this game. Neither of them played particularly well, but at least with Stone, you didn't have penalties that you got with Peters. Only one accepted. But the shortest they had on third down was 3rd and 3. So they didn't even have a 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1. And with the offensive line being what it is, yes, okay, it's only down one starter, but are they any good?
Right now, they're not. Not against that defense.
There are issues in terms of personnel, though, because I saw Corbin Smith, Locked On Seahawks. He put out a graphic on Wednesday that showed just the different types of personnel used, whether it was 3 wide receivers, 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, those 3 primary groups. And they do different groups than that. But those are the 3 primary ones that you see. And looked at the EPA per play, which is the expected points of just running a play. It's, the way that the stat nerds measure individual plays and how effective they are. And EPA for pass, their best result is actually out of their 3 tight end sets this season. They only run it 11% of the time, but that was their best EPA was out of that set and passing. When you look at 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers, it's not too much different. It's right below that. It's still, and it's color coded. It's actually top 10 in the league. So 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends, those are good. Also, their best rushing formation is when there are 2 tight ends out on the field. And so it passes the eye test just as it passes the stats test. And they actually only do 2 tight end sets 26% of the time so far this season. Half of the season is with 3 wide receivers, and they are in the negative for the rush, in the negative for pass plays. Their success rate's only 44% compared to 64% and 49% with the other 2 formations. So how does the team, like Pete Carroll understands stats, how do they not look at this and go, hey, maybe we should do more of these other things so we can get to the 3 wide receiver stuff that we want to do? Because we want to get Jackson Smith and Jigba involved. We want to get DK involved, and it's easier to do that when all 3 wide receivers are out on the field at the same time. But we got to get past the first set of downs to be able to move into the other stuff that we want to do.
Yeah, I am 1,000% over trying to get JSN involved. Like I think offenses really struggle when you start thinking that way, and that is definitely a problem with this offense. And then it passes the eye test, not just from watching our offense play, Brandon, but we watch the Ravens play, and they play a distinct brand of football. It's very unique. Like their quarterback is unique. The way that they run the ball is unique, and in comparison to the rest of the league. And so it's hard to prepare for as a defense. What formation do you think the defense is? I'm not looking this up. I'm not saying I know this is a fact, but my gut tells me that the number 1 formation that defenses see play in, play out throughout the year against all the teams is 11 personnel.
Yeah.
I would put money on that.
Yeah, because teams tend to want to throw the football more, and you're getting your 3 best receivers out on the field. Got a tight end out there. Most teams aren't 2 and 3 tight ends deep in terms of the amount of skill. So yeah, you're going to have more receivers, and it's a more flexible formation because you can send guys in motion. It's just you have your better pass catchers are out there generally,
but not necessarily with this team. And you can do all the creative stuff with tight ends as you can with a tiny receiver. You can do that, and then you have size.
Or when you have a unique receiver like Jake Bobo, who essentially is a receiver who can act like a tight end.
Yep. And blocks very well. So there's that option as well. This is as much on coaching as it is the offensive line. And it was hard to watch. It was hard to watch yet another stale Seahawks offensive performance. And knowing that you have the guys, you have the players, you really do. We're just not utilizing it correctly. And then you to bring up the stat that Corbin had put together there, saying that they're tops in the leagues running some of their other stuff, and they do it 11% of the time. it makes me want to hang myself with this microphone cord. It's so maddening.
Because you wonder how the team can look at what works and only want to use it 1 out of every 10 plays.
The argument has to be the reason it works is that we don't use it very often. And so it comes as a surprise, which is the same as like a flea flicker, and it's like, this is more sustainable than a flea flicker. Come on. Or a trick play of some kind, right? I don't know, man. It was tough, especially watching the defense really like hold them to no points in the first, get the ball back on the turnover towards the end of the second half, have the offense set up shop to try to keep it within, the end of the first half. Sorry, second quarter, end of the first half.
But yeah, it was a scoreless game through the first quarter.
It was right there. And then the second you get down 2 scores plus to that sort of defense playing the way it is right now, it's over. It's over for anybody, even the Dolphins. You get them down 2-3 scores to a great defense that has, all the players that the Ravens do, and they know what's coming. They know it's a pass every single time, and they can pin their ears back and go after somebody, say like Tua. Like, it's over for that offense too. Especially on the road. And that's what happened. Now, I think one thing we have to do, Brandon, and we say it all the time on the pod, you're never as good as your best game. That's the Lions, right? I would say.
Mm-hmm.
You're not as bad as your worst game, which is this one. You're kind of more in between, which then that's a bunch of decent performances short of the Rams game. We're not talking about the Rams game.
Yeah.
That's
not the worst one, but it's right up there.
It was a bad one. So that's 3 out of your 8 games there. The other 5 were all fine. They were fine. They were winning football. They're fine games, but those are or other 4 games, I guess. But yeah, you're just not going to win many. You're not going to win playoff games that way. And that's so at this point, I saw a few comments say, the Seahawks are average. And at this point in time, that might be the truest thing that you could say.
Yeah, because even though I think I had higher hopes for the defense, they're not among the top defenses, but they're probably more above average than the offense is average. So it's you have 2 relatively average units, I think, in terms of how they stack up against the league. And can they grow throughout the year? I think they do have that opportunity. I'm not saying that they're going to be able to grow into a Super Bowl contender this season, but I want them to be.
They could absolutely grow into a Super Bowl contender this season. It's still so darn early. Yeah. You don't want to be peaking right now. In a lot of ways, you don't want to be the Ravens or you don't want to be the Niners right out of the gate. You want to be closer to the 07 Giants where you're peaking towards the end of the year. And I think that they have a tremendous opportunity to take a step in the right direction here this coming Sunday against the Commanders at home. This is a get-right game if there's ever a get-right game.
It is, because whereas you see the Seahawks kind of average to below average in most of the categories, Commanders definitely toward the bottom of the league in a lot of offensive and defensive categories, and really where they have their strengths offensively in terms of their production, it's where I think that the Seahawks have the strength on their defensive side, because Sam Howell throwing for a lot of yards per game. And in part, I think it is because they do have talent at wide receiver in Washington. So he does benefit from that. I think they have some good running backs too. They don't seem to run the ball very effectively so far this year. So I'm also kind of concerned that, especially after the running performance that we saw from the Ravens, if Washington might shift that way.
Robinson's a legit back. I do love me some Scary Terry. Terry McLaurin is a hell of a player. What we talk about Tyler Lockett being one of the most underrated receivers in all of football. McLaurin as well. Like, that dude is a freaking beast. Dotson's pretty good. And Samuel's a decent player as well. But if you want to talk about just eyeball test with quarterbacks and whether or not you should roll with that guy or not, Sam Howell's a great case study. Does he make some nice throws here and there? For sure. Does he consistently miss easy-ish throws in clutch moments? You bet. And also, this Seahawks pass rush, this is a game where you should be making some money this week, boys. Like, you should be padding them stats. Sam Howell, I believe as of last week, was the most sacked quarterback in all of football. And then as far as offensively for the Seahawks, you should be able to run the ball because they just had a fire sale on the defensive line.
Right. They were still getting pressure, though, in the game this past week against the Patriots. But I think that's also because the Patriots have one of the worst offensive lines in football. I feel bad for Mac Jones because I feel like, even though I don't think he's as good as Geno, he's like a below average quarterback that looks really, really bad because of his offensive line. And if you put some dudes in front of him, he probably looks better. I think Sam Howell looks better because the Washington offense has a pretty good offensive line. So
short of giving up all the sacks,
giving up the sacks and because he's holding the ball and short of, throwing, misfiring on more than one occasion. It is interesting though, because I'm not saying that a lot of us don't watch a lot of football throughout the league, but when we go in and we're looking at the quarterbacks and how they play against the other team, and then also you end up seeing the opponent because you're watching the defense, and so you see quarterback play. I feel like in every game that I'm going and watching, I'm analyzing the quarterback play and comparing it to Geno because I want to know, am I weird in thinking that Geno is actually a good quarterback because there's so many people saying that the Seahawks have to move on, and you see guys like Mac Jones and Sam Howell and whatever the Cardinals
Desmond
are doing
Ridder
now.
and Ryan Tannehill,
right.
and Daniel
you see
Jones,
them because they're playing the opponents of the teams that ultimately the Seahawks are going to play, and you go, man, there's a lot of really bad quarterbacks. So even if Geno is kind of at the midpoint, there's a big drop off in the back half of the league.
He's an above average quarterback that you can definitely win a Super Bowl with if you can, play winning football around him. Yeah. And there's a lot of quarterbacks that aren't that way. And you talk about Mac Jones, being like, if he had a little bit better offensive line, he might be better. The big difference between Geno and Mac Jones is Geno can move. Mac Jones is a statue, and Geno has way better arm strength and better ball placement. Like, Geno Smith is by far a superior quarterback to Mac Jones. It's not even close. It's crazy. Like, all you got to do is watch the guy, and you can blame coaching. You can blame Matt Patricia. You can blame Belichick all you want, but he is who he is. He's the same guy coming out of college. He was on a stacked team, and so looked decent as a college quarterback and fooled the Patriots into spending a first-round pick on him. Geno Smith is not that guy. He is a much, much better player and much more savvy. You just got to run the football a bit. Give him a chance. Make those catches on third downs. And the Seahawks can do that against the Commanders. Like, they should be able to run the ball quite well against the Commanders with the stable of backs that we have. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Geno is one of the top, if not the top, quarterback in the league when they're running play action. And you see him even try and run play action some when they're not even running the football well. So could they do more of that? Maybe. But they need to be able to run the football, I think, for Geno to be effective. And the defense has to play better too, to get off the field more quickly. This has been a problem ongoing. The defense just not being able to get off the field on third down. And we even see it.
Oh, yeah. There was the one drive where they had him in like a 3rd and 18 or some nonsense like that.
They gave up 17 yards.
And they do the stupid Seahawks thing on 3rd and long where they play at the sticks. And like, oh, yeah, no, just throw it underneath. We'll tackle you. Cool. But if we get it close, we're going to jam it down your throat. Great. Let's give it a try. And so they do it. They come up a yard short, jam it down your throat. Subsequent set of downs goes by. You get them to 4th down again right about midfield, and Draymond jumps off sides. And they cash in another 4th down.
Like, Draymond Jones, you are lined up just off of the center, and you can't watch the football?
Watch the ball! Watch the ball!
Oh, so infuriating. But yeah, the defensive comparison, the Seahawks, better at yards per play given up, better at the points per play defensively, but Washington gives up a lower completion percentage. They give up fewer third down conversions, and they've been better inside the red zone. Now, one of the things that we talked about early on this season was how the Seahawks were like 100% inside the red zone. Thank goodness they've brought it down to only giving up touchdowns 2/3 of the time rather than 100% of the time. So that number is coming back into balance.
They did force Baltimore into a number of field goals there. Tucker had 3 at one point. I don't know what he finished with. But yeah, I do see improvement defensively week to week. And even after this last performance, again, a tough offense to play against. And I think they're going to give Sam Howell and the Commanders all the fits. Like, I don't care. Eric Bieniemy is not nearly as good of an offensive coordinator when he doesn't have Patrick Mahomes. That's clear.
No, but the weird thing is, when I look at this Washington team, how out of balance they are in terms of pass versus rush. You brought up how good of a running back Brian Robinson Jr. is. They run the ball 32% of the time this season and pass 68%. So when you talk about Sam Howell having a heck of a lot of yards, it's because he's dropping back and throwing the football 2/3 of the time.
Hey, if you come out of the Andy Reid school of football, you don't know what a run play is. Like, that's clear. We know that. Andy Reid's best running back throughout his coaching career has been Brian Westbrook, and he was a pass catching running back.
He didn't have any overlap with Shady?
Shady was damn good. Don't get me wrong, but Westbrook was MVP level there for a couple years, using him as a Marshall Faulk type.
Yeah, that's true. Another thing about the Commanders is that, and this was even a concern about the defense before they gave up 2 of their top pass rushers to San Francisco and Chicago. They score a lot of points in the fourth quarter, but they allow the most points in the fourth quarter. And so when it comes down to which defense is going to hold up if it's a close game, I think I like our Seahawks defense more than this Commanders defense.
Oh, by a lot. This is a mismatch, and this should be, like I said, a very doable get-right game for the Seahawks, and get back into the winning column and find some rhythm offensively and maybe get this running game jump-started. And because Ken Walker is too damn talented for it to look like this. It just shouldn't look like this. Can we eliminate all the bubble screens for gives to Walker?
I'd be okay with that. And then get Walker to 20 carries, get Charbonnet to 10. And I think that ends up being the winning formula for the offense. If you can do that and have that kind of balance with the running game, I think this offense is going to work.
And then it lends itself to you getting, 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends out on the field more often because you're trying to cram it down people's
want more Will Dissly, Adam.
Look, man, I understand. I want more tight ends in my life too. If you can remove the sexual overtones from that, you understand what I'm getting at. So, yeah, I want me some Uncle Will out there, no doubt.
I think that calls for the perfect time to get to the second half of the show.
Perfect.
Looking at our NFC West rivals and what happened this past week, Niners on a bye. So it was a bummer that we couldn't get a win and then move up into, because we would have been tied for the division lead then, right? Or no, we would have had the division lead outright.
Yes.
Yes, because they have 3 straight losses.
Yes.
We have 3 losses, but they aren't straight like the stupid Niners.
That's right. That's right. And, only a half game back at this point from first place in the NFC West. Probably not time to blow up shop there. Did the Niners lose the bye week somehow? I want to say they did, but they didn't because they traded for Chase Young, and that sucks.
That does kind of suck. Arizona Cardinals, they definitely lost the week, though, getting shut out by the Cleveland Browns, in part because they traded away their starting quarterback. I don't know if they're going to bring back their actual starting quarterback with Kyler Murray, but Clayton Tune, not that dude.
Not that dude. Yeah, they definitely lost by trading away the best quarterback on their roster in Dobbs. I've been overall moderately impressed with Dobbs. That guy is going to have a long career as a journeyman. Like, he is going to do well financially that way, and good for him. I would still. I think I'd rather roll with him than Kyler at this point, which I know is kind of sacrilege, but man, the Kyler Murray roller coaster.
In terms of pay, because you got to pay Kyler Murray. Josh Dobbs, you don't really have to pay. And it's kind of, when you think of those journeyman type quarterbacks like Jacoby Brissett and Ryan Fitzpatrick, those Baker guys were guys that could kind of get the job done when you needed them to, and you didn't have to pay them a whole bunch of money.
Yeah. Yeah. But hey, I guess they have to see what they have in Kyler. The new coach has to see if he can work with him, all that good stuff. I get that. It's going to be fascinating to watch them go down the stretch here and see if they find anything else. Because so far it does look like Gannon's a decent coach.
And that part is concerning. You also have the Rams with Brett Rippon. And didn't they go out and sign Carson Wentz?
I think the Ripine's gone. I think they got rid of him.
Oh, well, he did play this last week because he was the guy who was in there when they got hammered by the Packers.
Right. And so now Rams fans, I almost said that like they exist. Rams, they get to have the full Carson Wentz experience. Yeah. That's going to be fun with Stafford's thumb. Look, Stafford's a tough ass dude. I have nothing but respect for the guy. I really do. Short of those colors that he wears.
You need thumb ligaments though to throw the football.
You do. And so I think it's going to be Carson Wentz. And the only bummer out of this to me of this signing, Brandon, is that there's good football somewhere in there for Carson Wentz. It's in there. And it could be Sean McVay that figures that out. It would be really frustrating if this last year of Matt Stafford, they stumble into Carson Wentz and he ends up being good under McVay. That would be an absolute nightmare.
It would be. And I guess I'd be more concerned about McVay being able to unlock Carson Wentz, but we've seen Jared Goff go to the Lions and be better than he was with the Rams, I feel like. So maybe Sean McVay is not a quarterback whisperer.
I don't know. It's hard. I hope not. It's hard telling, not knowing. I'm really hoping that the Commanders and Colts and Eagles experiences come to roost for the Rams here going down the stretch. But injuries catching up to them a little bit, and they're a pretty thin team. We all kind of saw that coming at the beginning of the year for them. So, don't mind at all watching the Rams struggle.
And don't you feel like Sean McVay might regret at this point? He probably doesn't regret it because Matt Stafford came and they won the Rams a chip. But if you look at Stafford and where he's at in his career right now, and you look up in Detroit and see Jared Goff, don't you kind of go as a Rams fan like, wait a second, we traded away that guy and we could have that guy who maybe has a whole lot more of a career ahead of him than Matt Stafford, who, he came and gave us a chip, but now what do we have to look forward to? It's Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I don't think McVay is regretting it because he got his ring. And even this year, last year and this year, has it hurt his stock when it comes to the big fatty check he's going to get when he moves to the booth? I don't think it has. I think McVay is doing just fine with his newborn baby, doing whatever it is that McVay does with his hair gel when he's at home. So
no, but the Rams fan who sees that happen is probably upset.
Who is this fictional person you're speaking of?
One thing that is not fiction, it is our members of the flock. We've got our executive producers, DCH, Becca Christensen, Brian Shaw, JC Schilling, and Jake Burdine. And we have our members of the flock who went to getintheflock.com. They're helping to support the show. $3 and above gets you into our Discord chat. 12 and above gets you into our Facebook Ring of Honor group. And we've got some folks who just come in and offer up their very own donations. We've got Kelly Adams, who went to seahawkerspodcast.com/support, hit the PayPal link, and became a $3 a month subscriber. So welcome to the flock to Kelly.
Heck yeah, Kelly. Appreciate you coming in, man, even after a tough loss. Like, that's how you know you're doing a show okay, is that people will stick with you and want to get in even after that debacle.
Yeah, and I don't know to that point.
It was after. It was after.
It was definitely after, yes. So thank you to Kelly. Also, thanks to Matt Abeda, who came in at 1212 via getintheflock.com.
Heck yeah, man. Welcome to the Ring of Honor. Can't wait to have you, especially going into this week against the Commanders. And should be a fun week because the Discord's going to be on fire. The Ring of Honor will be on fire with a big win. That's what I'm predicting.
Will the Discord be on fire? Because we're going to have a lot of our Discord members and Ring of Honor members at the game. This is our weekly or our yearly gathering as a podcast group. We've got, at least 30 of us going and sitting up in the stands together. I think I have 2 more tickets left, though. So if you're still looking for tickets...
Maybe 3.
Why maybe 3, Adam? Come on.
All right. Well, okay. So I did a roof repair on the cabin. We got 1.5 feet of snow. What was that, a week ago?
Yeah.
Something like that. All right. It's been melting off that whole time. And not a professional roofer. And it shows in the utility room with all of our expensive solar stuff. And as it started to melt off, you'd have thought that I had just put a colander on top of that roof and called it good because it's like taking a shower in there. So I need 2 good days to get that fixed. And it's rain, snow, except for 2 above 50 sunny days in the forecast here before it really turns in Thanksgiving. And they are Sunday and Monday this upcoming week. Unless the weather report changes, man, I'm going to have to fix my house, I think.
So if you want Adam to be at the game, you've got to root for rain through the weekend to push those nice days back into early next week, and we'll make this work.
Join me in rooting for that for sure. Like I am hoping but this is how it always goes, man. Like every time I would leave for like a mill job or whatever it is, every time I'm getting ready to leave, the weather turns nice.
Always works out.
And it's like, screw you, man. Weatherman.
It didn't work out for me. I went to Spokane this past week. Guaranteed Barbecue closed on Monday, so I missed out on my opportunity to see Garen. But if you go see Guaranteed Barbecue and it's not Monday, you can stop by that food trailer in Kellogg. Mention the Little Flockers discount, 12% off your order. I would have done it, but Monday, not the best day to try it. Also, don't try it this coming weekend because Garen is going to be at the game.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe he'll be cooking in the stands.
But don't go to Kellogg, is my point. That's the wrong place to be. All right, Adam, what do you say we take a quick look at the Pick'em League?
Yeah.
How do you feel like you did last week?
Oh, I don't even have a sense of it. It's funny. Like when I get stuck in the middle on a football Sunday, I can hardly tell you what goes on in the league past the Seahawks for the most part. I don't know. I bet you I got... Because everybody was playing, right? There were no buys.
No, the Niners had a bye. There were a couple buys this week.
Okay,
it was the week before that we didn't have buys for weird reason.
I think I got 8 right.
Well, looking at the top teams this week, I don't see you there, but I do see Holy Catfish with 92 points, Great Rolls of Fire with 91, the Tram Rammers with 91, Andrew Rasband with 90, along with Can You Digs It and DK's Poop Cart. I did not get a readout yet from Evie on whether or not there's any dirty cheaters from this past week. So if you are one of those people, maybe it's just taking her so long to compile the list because we had so many cheaters. And in that case, you better watch out. But we've got, this is great. The top winner with 12 picks is, and there's a little musical note, so you do have to sing this team name. DK, have it your way, you rule. 12 points.
Got it. All right. Nice rip off of a jingle. I hope we don't get demonetized.
If it was too close to the copyright, then yeah, I guess look out me. Okay. Well, I do have to take a quick look because I can't give away a prize to a person that's a dirty cheater. And the good news is DK, have it your way, you rule, is the winner. Gets the tiebreaker. Scott Harrigan, I'm sorry, you got 12. You did not get the tiebreaker. But congratulations, because everybody but one person correctly picked the Seahawks in this past week's game.
Yep. Okay, that's good. And I never doubted at DK. Have it your way. Because they rule.
You rule.
Yeah.
Okay. I did want to check to see how many points you had.
Disley Adams is killing it. Crushing it. It was a good week.
A great week with 5 picks correct.
Damn it. Okay. I was trying to will it into existence. Didn't happen. Okay. I tried.
You were close. You had 9 the week before, so.
Okay.
Oh, no, you had 11 the week before.
No, even a blind squirrel finds a nut, right?
One of your better weeks. Well done. All right. Well, what do you say we run through some quick picks before we get on to some do better and better at life? Shoot, I think I have a couple things in the mailbag this week. So, yeah, we might need to get moving here.
Okay. All right.
Carolina at Chicago, Thursday night.
Chicago.
Indianapolis at New England.
Indy.
81%. You're picking favorites so far. 89% with Chicago, which feels a little bit surprising, but Carolina only has one win.
I thought that'd be closer to a coin flip. Okay.
Yeah, I thought so too. Baltimore at home facing against the Cleveland Browns. 94% going with Baltimore.
I'm going to take the Browns as my risk pick, and I know that the Ravens just looked amazing against us. They might be a Super Bowl favorite. They are a Super Bowl favorite. But division games get weird. The Browns have a good defense. I want to say Lamar has had some of his worst games against Cleveland too. So I'm going with the Browns as my risk pick.
Well, take into account that Adam got 5 picks correct this past week and use that to your advantage.
Take it into account that I got to make a risk pick too. Okay.
Okay. Well, why not pick Carolina going against the Chicago Bears instead? But yeah, if you want to.
Because Bryce Young is bad.
Sure. Yeah. And Justin Fields hasn't been great either.
And the Browns defense is good.
Green Bay at Pittsburgh. This would also be a risk pick if you wanted to pick Green Bay on the road against the Steelers.
No, thanks.
Okay. Cincinnati, the Bengals. 96% favorites against the Houston Texans in Cincy.
Bengals.
The first coin flip game of the schedule so far, Minnesota at home against the Saints.
God, good luck with that one. Vikings.
Okay. San Francisco, they're on the road against Jacksonville, 65% favorites.
Jacksonville.
Yeah, 4 straight losses. Suck it, Niners.
Suck it, Niners.
Tampa Bay at home against the Tennessee Titans. They are 72% favorites.
Really? Oh, that's surprising. I'll also take Tampa.
Yeah, it feels coin flippy to me.
Yeah, me too.
But it's also not a risk pick for Tennessee anyway. So Atlanta at Arizona, 84% favorites. Who knows if Kyler's going to be back in this game or not?
Yeah. I mean, I'll have myself a Heineke on that one.
Detroit at the Chargers. Detroit favored.
Yeah, Detroit.
Dallas at home, 99% favorites to the New York Giants.
Count me among the 99%ers.
Yeah. Seattle, big favorites over the Commanders, 91% rolling with Seattle. Vegas, 71% rolling with the Raiders against the Jets in Vegas.
Take the Jets.
All right. Like a bounce back game. Yeah. Is this going to be the first Vegas game with the new head coach?
No, last week was I got the win and they all smoked cigars celebrating the departure of McDaniels after. But you'll usually only get the one, big bounce from the coaching change, and then you're back to, the puddle of suck that you were.
And Salah's got to be pissed right now.
Yeah.
3% with the Denver Broncos as they travel to Buffalo.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, still taking Buffalo.
How many points?
How many points am I total points scored in that game? How many total
points between the two teams? Yeah.
It's going to be 30. 27-3.
So they get as many points as confidence in people on CBS Sports.
Oh, okay.
Poetic. We've got Hayden Lyons coming in the mailbag. Said, thought it was interesting how you guys mentioned on the pod how the U.S. mainstream media don't often talk about us Hawks. Why do you think that is? I find most podcasts I listen to, including around the NFL and stuff, don't often spend much time or take the Seahawks seriously. Just an observation. Hopefully we can get them all talking soon with some more wins. Keep up the good work from Hayden.
I hope that they don't, because then everybody tunes into us instead, right? Like people are actually talking about it. So
yeah, that's right.
We've talked about the reasons a lot, but mainly it's just, being geographically isolated and being not on the East Coast is a big deal.
You tend to see it the coverage tends to go where the bigger population centers are. The exception would be the Chiefs, just because Patrick Mahomes. But it's mostly playing to the population.
Yeah, and it's annoying that you can actually say what Kansas City is on the west side of the Mississippi, even though like they feel like an East Coast team. Just barely though.
They're east to us.
Yes.
Eric in Boise, what a surprise it was to hear my pick'em name, Illegitimate Hamstring, announced as one of the Week 7 winners, especially after years of trying a variety of strategies ranging from due diligence to coin flips, all with dismal outcomes, that I've settled on simply selecting the home or away column depending on where the Seahawks are playing. That's it. Homework done. And Monday Night Football points total, always got to go with the answer to life, the universe, and everything, 42. So all the pick'em suffering was worth it to hear Brandon's voice of God saying illegitimate hamstring, followed by the added bonus of Adam's version of the Wyman chuckle. All music to my ears. Thanks. Go Hawks, from Eric in Boise, part of the best time zone ever.
Hey, all right. Go Hawks, Eric. And I'll educate Brandon just so, because I'm sure it hurt your ears, but don't say Boise, dude. To people from Boise, you're going to get in trouble. It's Boise.
Boise.
Like Boise.
Not a Z.
Yeah.
It's not a Z, huh?
No. Yeah.
Boise.
I was read the Riot Act a couple times. Yeah.
Okay. Well, they're from Idaho anyway. They're southern Idaho. It's practically not even a real state down there.
Just desert.
Yeah.
And McMansion villages. Yeah.
Move up to the Panhandle where there's lakes and stuff.
Yeah, like everybody else. Yeah.
There are a lot of people in the Panhandle.
Yeah.
I'm sure I just offended the rest of southern Idaho. I apologize.
Well, the funny part is when Clinton was out here, I drove him down from Sandpoint, down there to Coeur d'Alene. Mm-hmm. And I was like, can you believe like all these houses here now? Look at all this stuff. Like when I was a kid, right? All that. And, him being from Connecticut, he's looking around. He's like, what are you talking about? This is rural as hell.
Look at all the space to build houses.
Yeah.
Not like down in Boise.
There it is.
All kinds of people down there.
All kinds of people.
We've also got John Davison coming in. Well, we got mullered on all sides of the ball. As you know, we were all in London a couple of weeks ago watching Baltimore, and they weren't that impressive. Plus, the whole game was live on Sky, so I thought we had a chance. Wrong. We were catfish. No names, just catfish. Big boy pants on now for a Sunday and go again. This is a game we must win. Not to stay in the playoff race, but to stop Barry from tormenting me for months. Please, Hawks. From John the Bard.
Look, man, it's rough when your best buddy's team whips you. Fortunately, we've done pretty well against the Broncos, including in a Super Bowl. I don't know if anybody remembers that. That was fun. Mm-hmm. I'm rooting for you, John, because you can't be taking that from Barry the Commie like for the whole year, dude. Can't do it.
I would like to point out that it has been a rough week for me because my boss is a Ravens fan. Not fun.
Ouch. Just got to eat that one, bud.
On to do better and better at life. My do better this week is for Brandon Perna and a stupid curse wheel.
Catfish! Perna!
I know you saw this. I know you saw this, Adam. Because on That's Good Sports, he does every single week. I think I even talked about this on the post-game show. But I'm still mad about it because he does he spins this curse wheel in terms of his power rankings. He had the Seahawks ranked in the top 10, landed on number 9 this past week, and it cursed the Seahawks. I was not quite a believer in the curse wheel, even after seeing weeks and weeks of it happen to other teams. I was thinking, oh, this has to be coincidence. There's no way that Brandon Perna out on YouTube, this YouTuber, can have a wheel that has the power of cursing individual teams week to week, even though we know that podcast curses work. I didn't believe it. I believe it now. And so for Brandon Perna and his cursed curse wheel, do better.
Yeah, man. This feels a little like my fault too. I feel like because I spoke into existence the Let's Ride curse, and again, that was me. That was me. I'm taking full credit for that one. I think it somehow transfers some curse powers over to Perna, because you're right, dude. That wheel has been just death for NFL teams. Like, he needs to pat that thing. In fact, I think I'm just going to start betting like mortgages on the curse wheel, like, because it is a real deal.
Yes, if you're going to live and die by it, may as well profit off of it.
Yeah.
I'm a believer now until I'm not.
Yeah, Perna's profiting off of it. Good for him. Keep getting them checks.
Who you got?
All right, man. My do better this week is for Earl Thomas's ex-wife's boyfriend. Clinton texted me a screenshot of the article. I didn't go through it and like really read it, but the headline I think said it all. Trust me, I know what it's like to have a sneaky ass ex-wife. Mine's a mean person. She's a mean lady, and but this takes the case. His ex-wife's boyfriend stole Earl Thomas's identity and then bilked him out of $1.9 million in assets or something. Ouch. That's worse than a divorce settlement, man. Like, this guy that's a terrible play and a dirty pool. I don't like it. And for Earl Thomas's ex-wife to not step up and prevent this, because I'm sure she's going to say she didn't know, but you kind of have to know, I think. Do better.
I think that you would have to know, because if you're trying to impersonate somebody's identity, if your ex-wife, who knows where you went to school, who your first grade teacher was, your first pet's name, you have the ability then to reset any password you want, get into accounts, and I imagine it makes it a whole lot easier to steal somebody's identity, even if you don't have, a forged license or anything.
Yeah, it has to be. That is nasty, man. Like, and I get that like divorce stuff gets nasty and all that, but that is the dirtiest of the dirty pool right there. Gross.
She does have a little bit of a reason to hold a grudge, but
understood. $1.9 million reasons? Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But maybe he'll finally get former Mrs. Thomas out of his life at this point.
God, I hope so. He probably thought he already did. He's like, the heck with this? Like, how? But it happened. Poor guy.
I'm going to go to me as the poor guy this past week, whose Oklahoma Sooners lost to Oklahoma State in the last ever edition of the Bedlam rivalry, thanks to stupid college football realignment. But I have to give Better at Life and credit to whoever picks the music at the Oklahoma State Stadium, because after the win, they blasted Taylor Swift's "We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together" as they got the victory, and I couldn't help but chuckle a little bit at that song choice. It made the 3-point loss hurt just a little bit less. And yes, screw you, Oklahoma State. You got the last one, and you're better at life than Skip Bayless.
So another football entity trying to benefit from the Taylor Swift bounce.
Yeah, but I think it works because we're talking about it.
Yeah, no, it did. But I understand they're your dirty rivals. I get it. A tough football weekend for you, man.
It doesn't get any worse, I don't think.
Oh, don't tempt the gods like that. Why would you do that? Don't do that.
The curse wheel. It was the curse wheel's fault.
Okay. All right. We could leave it there. Whew, we might have had to have a Hawker cleansing right there all of a sudden. Whew, that was scary. Yeah. Be careful with the gods, man.
Yeah,
Hawker
exactly. Cleansed.
There we go.
I always forget that sounder, and it makes me giggle a little bit every time. Other people that make me happy, Brandon, are by better at life than Skip Bayless this week. And that is for all of you 12s who, after this terrible, terrible loss where everything looked bad, the ones that are out there, the true fans that aren't willing to burn it down, even though you have a winning record, aren't willing to burn it down, even though you're only a half game out of first, aren't willing to throw Geno under the bus after he wrote us that beautiful letter this offseason and declared his undying football love for the city and puts everything he can into this thing and is doing the best he can under adverse circumstances, not bailing on him. All of you 12s, all of you fabulous, fabulous fans, you are better at life than Skip Bayless because you keep the faith.
All right. But the rest of you, you're on Adam's S list.
No, you're just in Mediocreville. Like, not everything has to be the greatest or the worst, right? Like, I mean, if you're feeling a certain kind of way about things, or you're a little mad, like, I'm not mad at you. You're just like, a mediocre fan right now. You could do better. And we could go back to do better if you want to explain that. But yeah, you just bump it up a little. You're just
slightly less better at life than the rest of us.
That's right. That's right. And your hawker will benefit, and this team's hawker will benefit if you keep the faith.
We're going to keep the faith. We're going to go into Seattle. We're going to be playing the Commanders. Oh, I don't think I even mentioned any of the get-together stuff. So going to the game, but before the game, we are getting together Saturday night, 7:30 at Bahama Breeze, which is down in Tukwila. And so if you made it this far in the show, yes, please join us there Saturday night ahead of the game. Shoot us an email, gohawks@seahawkerspodcast.com. So that way we can kind of have an idea of just how many folks we have. It sounds like we should have a pretty good group along with the Bootleg Football Podcast, getting together with them and their listeners. So should be a fun time. Can't wait to join our members of the flock, join other podcast listeners, and get a win against the Washington Commanders.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.